Over the past 5 to 6 years, Nigeria's banking sector has experienced significant growth, evidenced by the NGX banking indexes of 114.89% surge in 2023. Despite challenges from financial technology firms and regulatory hurdles, banks have shown resilience, maintaining market capitalization, revenue growth, and transaction volumes. Coupled with this is a notable trend in the rise of female executives as managing directors and CEOs in banks and bank-hold companies, highlighting the industry's acknowledgement of female leadership and importance. Now, this morning, I'm being joined by Kikelomo Shodeko, a risk consultant, and she will be helping us understand this better. Thank you so much, Kikelomo, for joining us.
The pleasure is all mine. Good morning.
So we've seen the growth in Nigeria's banking sector. Does the rise of female managing directors and CEOs in the sector excite you? And does it reflect broader trends in organizational leadership?
Certainly, it's exciting to see female leadership in any role in general. And it just shows that something is shifting. That is, the people are getting interested to see that women can actually, do their thing when it comes to leadership. And not only are they leaders, good leaders, they are able to transcend businesses from small to great. So that's why we noticed that most of this this shift in leadership style, where we are bringing in more women, is that these women are well trained. They have the capacity. They've shown resilience through the years. They are family. They're women with children. They're women that have it all, if I will put it that way. And today they're showing their abilities in spite of everything that is happening in the country. And if I will mention it also, we're seeing a lot of profit in the banking sector, and I can give kudos to the females in that sector. They are the reason, I believe they are the reason why we are seeing that kind of growth in the banking sector today, compared to what was happening in the initial stage, where women were considered for those big roles, especially in the board of directors and also managing the whole bank as a whole. So I would say kudos to the women. They're doing an exceptionally great job. And for them to be able to still be standing despite all the challenges they might have faced. So yes, I'm very excited. And it shows that something is shifting somewhere. And I hope it keeps shifting in that way. Thank you.
You talked about how resilient, industrious, and resourceful they have been. I'd like to find out how have female executives contributed to the remarkable growth? I'd like you to be very critical in terms of what they've been able to provide when we look at Nigeria's banking sector in the last few years.
Yeah, so first and foremost, the first thing is, the woman is seen as someone that can't do much. Yes, in the homestead, she's seen as someone that can handle the homestead. And I do believe that the female capacity to handle the homestead perfectly makes them become very, I would say, very versatile, right? The ability to handle the homestead, that is the kitchen, the children perfectly, brings them into the work environment, and they are able to be that coordinated. We all know generally that women are seen as very coordinated. Psychology tells us that they are very coordinated. We even had the popular test online, where girls were put together and boys were put together. And we saw how immediately the girls were able to, arrange themselves and gather themselves and be able to do the right things to help them move along, right? So we can see that. And we can see how they bring in their ability to handle difficult situations into the work environment. We can say what we can about all these people. We can say, oh, female bosses, they are nasty, and all those things we generally say. But I will say, through their resilience, they've been able to take the asset of each of the banks, these banks that have had females. We noticed that the growth has grown from 9 banks that used to have female executives to 11 banks today, where we have more banks bringing in more female managing directors. And today they are doing exceptionally well. So I would say it again, no matter how critical I get to the nitty-gritty of it all, we see a change in the dynamics. And so, for example, another change I will mention is that for Sterling Bank, they are bringing back mothers, mothers that have been at home taking care of children. They got out of a job because, they had to go on maternity leaves. And some of these companies are not so open to allowing women have a kid and still be working. So some of them were out of a job. But see what Sterling did. Sterling says, you know what, mothers, come back to work. There's an environment where you can have the best environment for your mothers. We see the same thing in GT Bank. at the GT Bank HQ, we have a whole floor for mothers with their babies. So it's just a dynamic that I believe is working exceptionally well for the women.
So yes, you mentioned a couple of new generation banks, and some industrial analysts or financial analysts say that we do not see women rise to the position of leadership in conventional banks. So are there any notable patterns in the types of banks or financial institutions that have appointed female managing directors and CEOs? Or would you say that this revolution is something that cuts across board or probably all sectors of the economy?
No, it does cut across because, as we all know, the famous Madam Ibukwan Woshika was in charge of First Bank, and First Bank is one of the oldest banks in Nigeria. So she was in charge of that bank for a long time. So it's been just a new generation bank thing. No, certainly not. And if we remember, most of the old generation banks had to integrate into the new generation bank. So banks are not in silos as we would like to think, right? So we will see that. We will see the pattern changing. Because the moment the older banks begin to bring in board members, we see board members coming in, we see females being made managing directors, that will change across board. So I think it's across board. I just believe so much that it also maybe I would give kudos to the CBN in this way, because also the CBN acts as a private entity in the sense that it created a policy that would open that latch for the women to be able to come in. So 30% for women to be part of the board of directors, and 40% for women to be in the managerial cycle of the bank. So for me, that in itself is exceptional for the CBN to create a policy like that. And those are the kind of policies that we need, that will cut across board, that would make it possible for these wonderful women that we are seeing today. And I can tell you, they're geniuses at their jobs. They are exceptional at their jobs. And for them to be climbing the top today is not shocking. It's just it was just a matter of time for them to be here. And I might even add that thus far, we've had our financial heads have been females, and they've been exceptional too, right? So the Madam Okonjo Iweala, she's a top financial person, right? We even have Dr. Ola Brown, who was a medical doctor and now a PhD of finance. That's amazing on its own. She's a venture capitalist.
Okay.
So and that goes on and on and on. So yeah. So definitely has to do with some policy, adjustment by the major bank, that's the central bank, and also the banks also being inclusive, opening themselves up to allow this kind of change to happen in the bank. Thank you.
Okay, before I let you go, Kikelomo, now aside the demands of motherhood, are there other challenges that female leaders do experience or face while navigating the workplace dynamics and environments mostly dominated by the male folk, and business ventures that investors look at and might have a bit of disposition or predisposition to it because it's being led by a female or by a woman? And when we have situations like that, aside policies and an inclusive environment or measures to help these females acclimatize and have them do their job better, are there other areas whereby these issues or challenges can be dealt with?
Yeah, there are many challenges. One of it is education. We see that more and more children are out of school, and the female is more affected. We have child early marriages where the woman is not allowed to become who she is supposed to be before she is sent off into marriage. So that's just two of the major challenges that are just there, right? There are so many limitations that even our constitution says that if a foreign person, a foreign national marries a Nigerian woman, he's not a Nigerian, right? That's odd, So there are so many limitations that are right there in between. Yes, it's great that on a broader level we see how the banking sector is showing the geniusness of the female folk, right? But underneath it all is still those things that need to be changed at the bottom, where females have to go to school. Let there be more opportunities for women as they come up in different parts of the country. It depends. The predisposition of each region of the country is dependent on how the female child is seen. So that's part of it. So those are the challenges. They're right there waiting for us. But thus far, it's still kudos to the female folk doing wonderful things in the banking sector.
Of course. Kikelo Moshideko, risk consultant, thank you so much for talking to us.
The pleasure is all mine. Have a good day.
And you too.